Alright, well, things are starting to come together now, which is good. To start off, we're going to carry on with the motor and see if we can't get it all bolted up and check to see if it'll actually hold oil. Well, now we have the main engine case together, it's time to get the chain cover on. First I'll need to get the kickstart back in, and to do that I wanted to push back in the original bush. I'm still going to use this original bush as it seems fine. After a quick check to make sure the kickstart shaft fits flush, I reassembled the basic kickstart components using the old seal and spacer. Then winding in 4 chain cover studs, I can check the cover fit. Not unsurprisingly, I find it's an awful fit at both ends. My initial thoughts on the bad fitting front end is the amount of alloy solder I had added to the cover, so breaking out the electric file I remove a lot more material. The back of the cover's problem seemed to be a common problem with alloy kickstart shafts touching the clutch's top steel plate. So now out comes the angle grinder to remove the bare minimum of material from the shaft. With those 2 fixes carried out, I can see much better results from the ends of the chain cover. Now to reassemble the kickstart fully. First up, I'm going to clean the shaft up and dress the splines. The next part of the process is to get the old seal back out and a new one in. With that firmly in, I can now build the piston part of the shaft, which thankfully is nearly all original parts. Using plenty of grease it all goes together nicely, and I can hold it all together with a new piston peg, as the original was completely worn down. With that all working, I can flip the case over, and after a quick smear of grease I can get the shaft in. Note the new spring in place. The old one was knackered and bent out of shape. It had been rubbing on the inside of the chain cover. To hold the shaft in, I'm first placing on an MB stainless oversized kickstart washer, and locking the whole lot together with a new circlip washer, the one with those little lugs added to help spread the loads around the washer underneath. Now to wind the spring into the shaft. The spline section of the shaft is secured into the soft jaws on the vise, and now I can pull the whole lot round, allowing me access to get the alloy kickstart ramp in place. Using new fasteners and a dab of Loctite, I get that done up in the centre position. Hopefully it should mesh nicely in that position. The final part of the kickstart rebuild is going to be getting the beast of a kickstart stop bolt back in. Now for the clutch arm. After good greasing I slip the actual arm into the cover, then add the lower shim and then secure it all in with a little circlip. Then on goes the new clutch quadrant, and here's the original sorry looking item with the original mashed up clutch nipple. Poor little things. The new one's held in place with another circlip. Then I pop the new O-ring onto the arm, followed by a shim and finally a circlip. With the cover built back up again, I can carry out the final check to make sure nothing's rubbing. To do this I'm artistically scribbling all over the steels and primary cap with a felt tip pen. Having vandalised those, I can now try on my new gasket. Now I'm using these fat cork gaskets from the really helpful chap at KTF Scooters for several reasons. Their thickness of 1.5mm, compressing down to 1mm, will help clearance issues I was going to get, what with the joke facing having occurred to the 2 gasket faces. The second also relates to the terrible job made to the faces. Despite my best efforts to clean them up, there are still some deep scratches left, and cork is great at squeezing into nasty imperfections, and hopefully these will stop any leaking from the chain cover. Back to the job in hand. I've secured the case down in 4 spots again and fitted this very shiny Casa kickstart from Lambretta Restorations. With that on, I'll turn the whole lot over a few times. Pulling the cover back off, I can see no wear marks on anything, so all looks good. After cleaning my felt tip pen mess off, I can get to work getting the cover on properly. Yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to show the whole bolt down process as that really is boring. But suffice to say, all the studs and nuts are now all locked firmly down. Now in with the stainless MB cover plugs using plenty of anti-seize and new fibre gaskets. Ooh, time for the big moment. I pour in the entire bottle of gearbox oil and hope for the best. Having left the filled up engine overnight, I come in to find success. Brilliant. So if everything is dry as a bone, I can now get oil all over the place by trying to get it out again. Back to the grind again, now seems a good time to get the new silent blocks in. Heating the case up again, I fit the replacement silent blocks, which are uprated side specific items from BGM. I've read a lot of negative reviews about these. I'm hoping I'm not about to become a victim of them. With those pushed in, I now turn my attention to the mag flange and bolt in my new BGM 12V stator plate and MB stainless wire clip. Back to the top, I can now fit the MB mag housing sealing kit. Next in is this new bump stop stainless washer and then bump stop itself. Then on go my new MB adjuster block, gear swivel and clutch arm. Now none of these bits needed replacing as all the originals are fine, but this is supposed to be a modified build and if parts are available that are only mildly better than the originals, why not? I also like the more mechanical, machined look of them as well. With that lot all bolted down using new gaskets and stainless hardware, it's time to work on the brake. Now what you see me fitting here is really going to piss future owners of this motor off. I'm fitting an entire GP brake setup into this LI case. Oh well, it will prepare them for all the GP internals. First I prepare GP pivot pins securely screwed in, followed by a GP rear brake cam. Then on go these GP brake shoes from BGM. Those of you in the know will know there should be a little red dot on the leading shoe, which for me came off when I unwrapped them. But luckily a small trace remained to tell me which shoe went where. These are held in place with this funky looking brake retaining clip. Then after fitting a new rubber O-ring, on goes the MB rear brake lever. That's held in place with a new circlip. The final fitting is going to be a smashing new stainless steel grease nipple screwed into the engine case. And that's it, the motor's back together again. Nice. Alright, engine all together. Nice. Now, let's see if we can't get somewhere with that frame. The last time I messed around with the frame, I'd left off at tacking the leg shield bracket into its new position. I stopped there because I needed the horn casting to check the bracket's position was correct. Well, here is my new horn cover from those clever chaps at Casa, along with its matching shiny add-on horn casting grille. First thing is to get these two components bolted together using the supplied bolts, which will be replaced. Ain't no one got time for flathead bolts, they've got no place in the modern motor vehicle world. And straight away I've got problems. These two parts, despite both coming from the same manufacturer, do not fit together very well. It turns out that it's got something to do with this little alignment lug. More on that later. For now I can still use it all to get the leg shields in the right place. The next piece of bodywork needed is going to be a mudguard. And here it is, from Rimini Lambretta Centre, complete with a free ding. That should be simple enough to get out. The reason for getting this mudguard is it appears to be a one-piece stamping, as opposed to the usual three-piece welded items I see other vendors selling. But more on that later on. For now let's get all these bits bolted together. After attaching the horn casting to the mudguard, I can fit this assembly to the leg shields and frame bracket. Happy with the fit, it's time to strip the frame back down and finish welding the bracket to the head tube. After a quick lick of paint, I can now get assembling the front end again, only this time using plenty of grease in the headset and snugging it together a bit more firmly. With the almost complete front bodywork fitted to the frame, I can now check for fitment, and it seems quite good. But for some reason the handlebar casting gap between the chrome ring has shrunk. I'll admit when test fitting previously, on full lock the bars and ring did actually grind together, which got me thinking that maybe the chrome ring was not so straight. So off with the bars and a little cold setting, and a quick check of the lower gap. With the bars refitted, you can see nice matching gaps that now remain when you turn the bars, which is nice. Now time for the serious stuff. Happy with the way the front's gone together, it's time to broach a personal gripe I have with Lambrettas fitted with drop bars. It's this line here. Now with standard bars fitted, it looks nice and even, well thought out. Unfortunately with these bars on it looks uneven, a bit of a bodge. So to keep my fastidious side happy, I will need to shave a bit off the leg shields. A pretty normal thing to do, but rather than use a good old fashioned scooter boy cut down approach of just cutting the edge off, I want to keep the rolled edge. Easier said than done. The first step is to mark out the new edges, allowing for the reattached rolled sections and getting busy with a grinder. After dressing the cut edge of the rolled section, I can finally remove it all together. A quick clean of the new edges and then time for lots and lots and lots of welding. Followed by a copious amount of grinding. Now I haven't included all the footage as to be honest the hours of welding and grinding this operation ended up taking would be incredibly boring to watch. The reason for the difficulty of this operation only became apparent whilst editing this video, where in this picture I spotted all those little traces of rust present under the old paint and still there after being scurfed and sanded. The fun of TIG welding rusty old metal. Anyway, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want to watch a grown man throwing tantrums when little bits of metal fall off or disintegrate into sparks. So here's just a sample from the end of this silly idea. Oh, note to self, don't do that again. Anyhow, back to the plan. You can see my endeavour finally paid off and I got exactly what I wanted, at the loss of a small piece of sanity mind. I finally welded up a few of the bigger cracks and got to work plugging the badge holes. Next up was to sort out these fixing holes which seemed slightly misaligned, and to remedy that I just drilled the holes out to 6mm. This should fix those problems. Now time to sort the rough look of the floor section, and with the paint removed you can see the quite serious rust scars left behind after sandblasting. With the leg shields ready for prepping, let's move on to the front mudguard. As pointed out earlier, there are a couple of little dings present, probably caused by bad storage, so time to get those knocked down. And this was when the fun started. After scurfing back the incredibly thick paint, my worst fears came true. As you can see, this guard has multiple welds all over it, and despite some very skillful sheet metal work carried out by the builder, this thing was actually a mess. After scurfing back the paint all over, I found the entire guard littered with dents. It would also be pointless to try and dress the mudguard any better than the original builder had managed, so it seems time for some filler. Before breaking out the isopon, I should get back to the top half of the frame loop. There were a few little dings all over that I knew I would have to sort out after getting the frame powder coated. And it's also time to clean up the repaired section and get those body lines right. So with the paint scurfed back, time to get filling. So I presumed watching an old man welding and grinding could be boring, but I know for a fact that watching sheet metal being filled and rubbed down is boring to watch. So, using the magic of video editing, we can skip all that and see the finished product. At this point I was a bit concerned the industrial sized tin of filler I bought was way too much for the amount I would finally use. as thankfully the leg shields and frame did not require a horrendous amount of filler. But the front mudguard was a different story. Okay, so most of what you see is only slight skims, but I did wonder about giving up on this one and buying a new one. Hold on, this is a new one, isn't it? Well, that's enough moaning about the mudguard, and let's get back to the horncasting. After filing down the little lug and levelling the horncasting face, you can see it's a bloody awful fit. So it's out with the electric file and sander, and after a fair bit of sanding and a little lick of etch primer, you can see it all fits together much better. And with all the other front end components painted as well, I can now get assembling it to the frame to check everything fits together using SIL rubber seals. Now those of you that have done this will know that getting all these bits together and getting the gaskets in the right place is a real pain in the arse. So yet again, with the magic of editing, I've saved you the turmoil involved in getting all these bloody bits together. All done, and now you can see the true horrors of these horrendously made rubber seals. Serves me right for being cheap, but seriously, how can you make rubber seals look so crap? Oh well, Indian quality control I suppose. You can see my Nightmare mudguard really is a crap fit. Shame, it didn't look too bad without the gaskets. Gonna have to come up with a cunning plan for that. Other than that, everything seemed to go together quite well. So, you know what all that means. Looks like next time I can finally have a go at fitting a motor to the frame, and then maybe even an actual glimpse of a scooter. Oh well, it's only taken 6 episodes, eh? See you later.
7, 3, 2,